Hi, I'm Ed Parcaut, your host of Inner Edison. What I'd like you to take away from today's show is your greatest accomplishments come from your greatest failures. Today's guest is Michael Fabber, and let's welcome him and get to know his journey and his story. Mike, thanks for being here today. Is it okay if I call you Mike? I know you have Michael up there.
I've been called worse.
What do you prefer?
Either one. If my mom's around, I would say Michael.
Yeah, well, that's like I put Edward on everything. So when someone calls the office looking for Edward, I know they don't know me. So that's how I do it. So, and a lot of people go,
Smart
"What?
man.
That's pretty smart." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's yeah." So if you're smart and you know an Edward, you always call and ask for Ed, right? So anyway, so a
Right.
lot of my you got a little. He doesn't have COVID today, Omicron, thank goodness, but he does have a cough. So don't worry about. We'll just get going. We can always edit it out. So I know you from the Steve Sims world, and please don't take this wrong, but you're a little different than that. What I mean by that is you're one of the he really cares about everybody he deals with, but you care about I don't want to say almost too much, but I see that in everything you do that it oozes. It's not about me, it's about you. How can I help you? How can we move forward for you? From that, I help me. Is that did I kind of get that right?
Yeah, I have the belief that the more you impact, the more you receive what you want. Right? Who was it? Zig Ziglar said,
I'm
"If you get enough people what they want, you get what you want in return."
Mhm. Yeah, it's because there's back in the day, there's a lot of people who there was an insurance guy who would get together. He'd ask two people to lunch, sit down with them and say, okay, this is a lunch for you two. See you later. Have a nice day. The check's on me. Right. And so there's people like that who put people together and then they know they get a benefit from it down the road just by helping people. And that's important. All right. So you want to tell a little bit about your story? Because I'm sure you've not always been here, have you?
No.
All right. Why don't you tell your
All right.
story? I don't know
New
your
kid on the
story.
block.
See, a lot of people think I know everybody I have on my show. I know them through everything, but you can know people, but not know everything about them. So let's kind of get a little bit in your stories to get you to, and then we'll go from there. Okay.
Whew. Where do you want me to start?
I was born in Alabama,
All
whatever.
right. I was born deaf. All right. I was born without the ability to hear. I didn't
Really?
get the ability to hear until I was 3 years old.
Wow.
So I didn't learn how to talk until I was like 5. But my family was very military. Right, my father served, my brother served. Right, and there was no excuses. Right, so there was no starting school late. There was no special treatment. There was get right. Right, like figure it out. Which when I was younger, I hated. Right, I was like, come on, like give me a break for a second. Right, I was the dumb kid. I failed 3rd grade. In 5th grade, I would go back to 3rd grade for reading classes in English just because I was behind. I started school. I was trying to figure out how to put a word together. They were figuring out how to put sentences together.
Right.
All right. So what that does is then I think I'm the dumb kid. Right. So we talk about self-awareness. At that point, I identified as the dumb one. Right. So the dumb one, I'm not going to take school very serious. I love sports. I thought I was going to be in the NBA. Clearly, I'm not. Right. And right. So that adds into my story that at 10 years old, my brother becomes one of the 22 a day that served the country that took his own life. Right. And so
By the way,
again,
I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I say he was the best favor, gone too soon. All right. And what happens is us as men, especially with military backbone, we're not hurt. We're angry. All right. So I wasn't hurt. I was angry. I was 10 years old and I was angry. Right. And then growing up, I lost some friends, some because of some dumb ideas of myself. I dared one of my buddies to take a car if he wanted to get to this party. He took the car. I got in an accident and passed away. So then I have guilt and anger. Right. And then my father dies when I'm a teenager. And really it leads to like, I'm 20 years old and in 1 week I'm facing 20 plus years in prison. I find out I'm having a daughter and I get shot at. And it was like, what kind of life am I living? And I didn't want to be someone that his daughter had to come see him in jail or a stone. All right. So I was like, this life's behind me and I'm going to go start a new life as the person that I need to be for her. All right. That means I didn't deal with anything. I just said I'm going to go start a new life. Right. So I became an entrepreneur, which means I just started doing legal business, right? And opened up a restaurant and bar, a landscape company, a couple of other things at that time growing, and now we have a bunch. But it was like that's how I was going to live. I was the business guy. I was going to have the biggest bank account, right? And everybody was going to worship my bank account. Like anybody gives a damn what someone else's bank account is, right? Like name anyone that passed away that you care about and tell me what was in their bank account. Right? Like you don't know. All right. Yeah. Because I care about them. I don't care about that. Right. Unless you left it to me, then I'll probably remember. Right.
Right.
So, right. So I'm like, so I'm just going about life that way, thinking that's what's going to make me who I am. I have all the fancy stuff, big cars, Cadillac Escalade, spinning rims, 12-inch subwoofers in the back. Right. I used to wear matching velour suits, Kango hat, and Timberlands. Right. Like I was a great joke and I didn't know I was a joke. Right. Like I always questioned my friends then because I was like, what kind of friends I had that not one of them was like, you look ridiculous. Right. Like change, stop wearing all one color, like put different colors on, do something. Right. So I always questioned the friends I had at that point because it was rough. And in 2011, one of my best friends, Matt Carter, took his own life. And from that, my fake reality shattered. Right. Because before he did, he called me and I was hitting fake golf balls in my yard. Talk about like the epitome of fake. My life was fake. And at the biggest moment of realizing it, I was hitting fake plastic golf balls in my yard. I suck at golf. Hitting those balls did not help me, right? I still suck at golf. I don't really even enjoy it. I do it because other people do it, I guess. And when we get older, that's the most athletic thing we can do now, right? And so it was just when I look at it, I'm like, wow, all right. Weird how it all works. But when that happened, I went off the deep end a little bit. I got into drugs, heavy. I was sitting on the beach in Lewis with a gun. It was going to be over, right? I didn't deserve to be here. All that stuff I held down for all those years came out, right? And I couldn't hide the hurt anymore. And I was sitting there and a picture of my daughter was in my pocket. Somehow it came out. And that was like, again, my daughter saved my life, right? So I was like, before she was 10, she saved my life twice, right? So I was just like, I don't know if she'll ever understand the power of her, right? Just the existence of her and how I'm still here because of it, right? But hopefully at some point she does get that. But then I went on this journey of finding me, right? You know that thing everybody's like, just go find yourself, bro, right? I'm like, oh, like I'm a lost toy out there somewhere and I just need to go figure it out, right? So like I hitchhiked across America trying to figure out where I was. People were like wondering where I was. It's funny, I ended up in Mobile, Alabama. So it's funny when you were like, I was born in Alabama. I'm like, I was reborn there, kind of, right? Like, and I'm at the Mobile Inn, which is not the best resort I've ever been to. Just so you know, it wouldn't even be classified as a resort. And I'm sitting on
the word "in" kind of throws it out there. So
kind of gives it away, right? We kind of know a little bit about it. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Right? Like I look behind all these trees and bushes under rocks, haven't found me yet. Right. And I thought about something a basketball coach asked me once. He said, Mike, man, anyone ever breathe easier because you existed? Right. And it was crazy. At that point, I didn't know the answer. Right. I couldn't say yes. And I was like, Jesus, what a waste have I been? Right. Like for so long. So for the first 20 years of my life, I was the villain. Right. I was the bad guy. That was the character I was playing in my story. All right, because it made me heard, made me seen, and made me felt. Right, and I could play it easily. Everybody accepted me in that position.
Right, and you didn't know any better at that time. Right. Yeah, they don't know. Yeah.
Right, and I was getting what I was seeking was someone to notice that I was alive, like that I had worth and value, or something. All right, and then the scary part was like the next 10 years, I played the damsel in distress. I was waiting for someone to come save me. I was a victim. Right. And it was like at that point, I had to play the hero, right? The lead character of your story. We all have to play that. I can't be the hero of anyone else's story. Right. It doesn't work that way. What they say, it's better to die a hero because if you live long enough, you won't be one. Right. And it's like, so I'm like, I don't want to be anybody's hero. Right. And at that point, I said, everything I built was all bullshit. But that point from on, for however long I get, it's going to be about impacting others because that's legacy. Right. That's what lives on. How do you serve others when you're here? So in 2011, CMF came to be, which eventually came Unleash You Now in 2017. And that's been our journey ever since, is to end self-injurious behavior and suicide. That's my ultimate goal, or dream, as I like to call it. And how do we do that? I was like, I'm going to impact, right? We're going to impact each person, right? We're going to impact 1 billion people. I did over 300 free sessions my first year in 2011. And I was like, I have to live to 1 million, right? So I was like, that clearly is not going to happen. So let's start speaking to groups. So I started speaking to groups. After year 2, I was going to have to live to 1,000 and like 300. So I was like, all right, we have to do this differently, right? And it was like, who are the people out there that are passionate about serving others, impacting others, helping others in their area of genius, and how can we serve them? So then selfishly, I can steal their number, and that's the best chance I got. So we're going to impact 1 billion people, and how we're going to do that is by empowering the ones that are empowering others.
All right, and the people that are empowering others are those coaches, those kind of, is that what you're talking about, or what are they usually?
So for a long time, I refused to be the guy that coaches. First of all, the coaching space hates me because I'm the guy that makes fun of coaches all the time, because they're like, I didn't eat the brownie this morning, I'm a health coach, right? Like there's people that are just like, okay, today I'm a coach. I'm like, please stop, right? And the coach name for me came because I coached basketball for like 16 years. So that's why people called me coach originally. It wasn't because I was, I'll never say I'm a life coach ever, right? Because I messed up life more than most. Do the opposite, right? That's why great coaching.
I know, but that is the best coaching. You can tell, because the examples you can give, most life coaches have no idea. They're 19 years old. They have not done anything. You know what I mean? There's so many of these guys. I'm a life coach and I'm a crypto trader and I'm a this. You know, I don't know if it was you or somebody else put it out there in one of the groups. Like, do you cringe every time you accept a new friend because they might be trying to sell you crypto or whatever? It's like, yes, very much so. Can you just follow me?
Right. Yeah. You want to just leave me alone, right? Like the chance of me buying your Bitcoin is 0, right?
Right. Yeah.
Because if it was so good, I would find you. You wouldn't find me.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So yes, I'm that way. I always say there's a lot of like, I watched a YouTube video and read a book coach, right? Like I can coach in this one thing, right? Like I know how to SEO a website because I read a book about it. So I'm the SEO coach, right? And I'm like, please stop, right? And so the coaching space doesn't love me because I'm very honest and raw on it. And for a long time, I felt like it was just coaches trying to coach coaches, and I thought that was like the big swindle, right? And it was like that was whoever could do that better wins, right? And I was just like, I'm not going to coach a coach just because I don't ever want to do that shit. And so I did it, which was funny. It's like I started, one of the first things we did was a health shake place, which is completely opposite of me, right? Because if you ever tell me, let's go get a spin and shake, it's fun. I'm going to try to kick you in the balls, right? Like that's not fun for me. So it was funny. That was one of our big stories at the beginning, that how we turned them around. But it was a lot of brick and mortar, a lot of restaurants and bars and landscape companies and some service industries, just because that's what I knew, because that's where I started in entrepreneurship or in business. So I knew I knew some of the business itself and the passion behind it. And now recently it's been some strategists, consultants, lawyers, accountants. And last 2 years, we've kind of welcomed some coaches, as long as there's some things that there's an alignment of some sort that we know that they're doing the thing at a level in which we want to be associated with.
Gotcha. The reason I ask that is because I've seen your events from afar, not been there,
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, on pictures and stuff like that.
At some point.
And then I talked to Amy T. Meyer, who's one of your biggest fans, you know, and I think you're her fan too. But she, you know, she's like, oh, he's amazing, blah, 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 you know. And so I don't,
I pay good money for that.
I agree. You know, I understand. You know, I'm still trying to get her to like totally come out of her shell when she's on our, you know, helping the brave. She's slowly getting there. I beat her up all the time, and she like hangs up on me like you can on StreamYard, right?
Yes, sir.
So, but it's, you know, and I'm sorry, but every time I look at you, I think Duck Dynasty. So no offense, you know,
100%.
Yeah. All the time. And not that that's a negative thing, because I'm not saying those guys are worth a lot of money. So there's not, you know, and I think one of the things.
An episode.
Huh?
I've never watched an episode of Duck Dynasty.
I have. So I'm more of a
Nice.
redneck than you are. So
No, it was just because everybody called me it. I was just like, I will never watch it because then I'll be it. I'll start talking like it, acting like it. I'll be like, that's so sorry.
my problem with the beard is I get stuff in it and it's like wet, and I go to kiss my wife and it's wet on her face. You know what I mean? I'm like, so I grew one out. I grow one every December, and then it's like right as December's over, I cut it off because it's too much for me. I can't do it.
You can store food in it and stuff.
Yeah, I know, but that's not what I want to do. So, all right. So let's talk about all right. So you have a story. We all have stories. I mean, I don't know if you know my story, but when I was 12, my dad died of hairy cell leukemia from Agent Orange. So we went from the good side of town to the freaking horrible side of town. Everybody thinks that, we all come from money when we don't. I was on the bad side of tracks. I tell people I had 2 pair of jeans, 1 pair of shoes, and 3 shirts. And that's what I had for high school. I wore the same shit all the time. And, I worked out at my grandfather's dairy during on weekends. And then in the summer, the whole time I did all that because, we were on Social Security, SSI for us kids and everything. Cause after my dad died. So I tell people that's what makes you right to who you are, your story, whether we all in our 20s spent a lot of money when we come from that because we're trying to make something up. Like, I never had this. I need to have this 500 SL living in my house in Rancho Santa Fe, coming out of there. And then one day I woke up at 27 and said, this is not my beautiful house. This is not my beautiful wife. And I said, and I went, I sold everything and went to Oceanside. If you don't know, it's probably San Diego, and started over. And so I relate to your journey and your story because I have my own that's kind of not exactly the same, but I have my own things that I went through, and we all do. And you have to be okay with that and not hide that. I hid that for years. People know more about me since I got on radio than I ever wanted people to know about me. And since I've been doing lives over the last year and a half and everything I've been doing, 2 years, maybe, people know everything about me. And you have to be okay with that because that's how you draw people to you, the right people, right?
Your people.
Yeah, the ones you want, the ones that are going to support you, help you grow, be there for you when you need them, not the fake ones, the real ones.
Right. I think for so long we're almost like programmed that our story is something that can hold us back or embarrass us, right? It's like for so long I was trying to prove other than my story, right? Rather than trying to show mine. And I think what you said like hits it right on the head. It's that we all have stories, and the stories are going to be different on the surface, right? These are going to be different here. Like going to the dairy farm to put it in, I can't relate to that, right? But I can relate to the idea of like, you got to put it in, right? Like to have a chance to have anything, you got to put it in, right? To be able to get it out, right? So, but we all relate to the feelings of it, right? Like we all have loss. Right, like we all feel like we were the underdog or the black sheep or the outsider or the outcast at times. Like we can all relate to the feelings of what we were going through when we were going through it, and that's the connecting part. So it's like when you were talking about losing your pops, I was like, oof, right? Like I didn't lose my pops that way. I didn't lose my pops, but that feeling of it, it's like, man, like I know that feeling. So I'm sorry you went through that too. All right, and that's where we can connect, and that's where we connect with our people.
And as you were talking about how it doesn't affect you then, I remember going to school and people like, how can you be in school after your dad died? Why aren't you? And it didn't affect me. When it affected me was when I had my son and I was watching the commercial where the son calls the dad, right, on the holiday or whatever, and just checking in, dad, just want to say I love. And I was like, shit, I can't do that. Right. It didn't hit me until like 20 years later. And then it was like, fuck, excuse my language. I guess I can cuss on my own podcast. But it was like, it didn't affect me until then. And then it's like, wow, I miss, that's a whole thing I don't have, and my wife kind of the same way. Her mom didn't die till later, but kind of the same, you have that loss where you don't have those people around you and you try to fill those sometimes with the wrong people. So
100% wrong people or wrong things.
Yeah.
Listen, everything we're doing is trying to fill something that we want. Right? Either a feeling, right? A thought, right? An understanding, right? Like whatever it is, we're trying to fill something. I was doing drugs trying to feel something. It wasn't just because I wanted to do heavy drugs, right? I wanted to do them because I thought it would fill something in my life that I was missing, right? And you realize then you can't fill it that way.
Right.
And it's unfortunate.
And I'm glad you figured that out, because I worked for a guy who did drugs, was an alcoholic, and then filled that with a money addiction. So
Mhm.
talk about,
Mhm.
so you have to, and we don't always deal with our stuff, and you have to deal with it, because until
100%.
you deal with it, you will not be that person. So, and however that is for you to deal with it is, and I don't mean not the drugs and the other stuff, but,
Mhm.
actually come to, like you did, realization, I got to change my life. I can't be around here. And my daughter did that for me. We
Mhm.
all have a reason that helps us, right?
100%. Or we got to find one,
Right.
whatever it is. Find, like, here's the deal. Rock bottom is a different level for everybody, right? Like, there's no like certain depth. Well, now you're at rock bottom. Like, you're at rock bottom when you decide this is rock bottom,
Right.
right? And that's one of the biggest things. And I think one of the confusions we use, because we always say we're addicts, right? We're all addicted to something. Every one of us. It might not be drugs or alcohol. It might not be something bad for you, right? Right now, I'm addicted to personal growth and development. I want to grow. Like, I want to learn. I want to get better. I want to be able to better use my tools and skills. That's the same focus and drive that used to bring me towards drugs or alcohol, right? It's the same thing. I just use it towards something different now. So rather than saying, "Oh, you're an addict," and we're not addicts, right? Like, we're all addicts. But what are you doing with your addiction?
Right. Yeah, I always say I have addictive personality, so I can either
100%.
put that towards like what you just said, or put it to something else. Like every time I start something, I always go completely, to the nth degree on it. You can just look at my content to see what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? It's like, and Steve, it's like we help you get the stuff off your plate. You're not supposed to put something else back on there. It's like, no, that's the whole purpose of why I have you, is so I can keep doing more of something else and something else to see where I want to go. Because you probably know I have a radio show I do once a week. Well, they came to us and said, "Hey, you want to do it 5 days a week?" And it's like, wow, do I really want to do 5 days a week? 5 to 7 drive time every day, 5 days a week. Probably for a short period of time, I'd want to do that, but who knows? It just, because you never know. You got to try it. Am I comfortable at it? No. You got to do everything that makes you uncomfortable in life. So,
Yeah, right. And how do we know until we go down the rabbit hole?
right. Yeah, it's okay to fail if you don't, do it, and then if it's not what you want to do, that's okay. Just redo something else. And I think that's our biggest, one of the reasons I started this podcast was our, failure. I hated making mistakes. I had no problem with my staff doing it, other people doing it. I'm prior military, military. When you make a mistake, someone dies, and that's the whole purpose. And Steve's like, you got to do this podcast, and then that's how the Inner Edison came out. And our greatest accomplishments come from our greatest defeats. All right. So we talked to kind of our story to this point, both of us, and you keep getting me to bring out more of my story, but it's about you. So let's talk about your events that you put on, and how do they work, and how do people get in touch with you if they want to be part of it, and that kind of stuff.
Awesome. So you can find me anywhere on social media, Michael Fabber, right? Or Unleash You Now. Our events, so we really focus on the logical part of what we focus on is increasing influence, impact, and income, right? We call it the 3 I's. But how to do that is we have to go under the surface, right? A lot of this is mindset, right? What's happening here? And how do we work this and make it work for us, not against us? For a long time, this was working against me, what I really wanted. And I was doing that. I have to own that. This is mine, right? So it's not like it was someone else. No, like it was me doing this and using this for things that wouldn't serve me in the way I wanted to, right? So why was that happening? Why did I believe I wasn't good enough, right? Why did I have the self-worth issues? Why did I hold the hurt inside me, right? Like, why did I do that? And then understanding how to break those cycles, right? If we have a trigger, let's make it trigger us to do something that's productive for us and not against us. So we dive into the mindset of it. And then what I always say, the mindset inspires us, right? It motivates us. This motivates us, right? It motivates us to stay disciplined. It inspires us to stay disciplined, right? When we have purpose behind something, we want to do it, right? So we focus a lot on this part, but I don't want to just have that. So at the end of an event, you run through a wall because you're so hyped, but then you don't know where to go when you run through the wall, right? And you're just outside the wall, like, I want to go back in, right? And I think that's what happens sometimes when we have a little progress, then we fall down, right? I used to say, like, I was famous for like doing something amazing and then crashing and burning, right? Like, I was amazing at it. Like, it's like anything I set my mind to, I would do that exact thing and then destroy it right after. I was just like, I need to adjust what I'm doing here because it works for a little while and then it feels really bad, right? So we have to give the principles to whatever we're going in. If it's about one of our Launch in 3 retreats, if it's our movement maker, if it's the 6-figure weekend, right? Like whatever it is, we have to go into then the principles of that thing, right? Like there's principles to business. We know if you follow these things, the business has a better chance of making it than not, right? And then strategy and tactics. Strategy and tactics, what aligns with you, what feels right with you, what's using your strength and not like your weaknesses, what aligns with the people that you're trying to serve, right? Like it's understanding those to know what strategies you're going to use and then the tactics to accomplish that. Right. So we go both. We go in the interior world, and then after we go interior, we know interior comes to exterior. And then what can we do out here that'll get us the results we want, because we're result driven. So the process to get to the results, and how can we do it at a timely manner that's faster than not. Right. So how can we speed up time, condense time? And that's where you're going to get our events. But really, that's the sales to go there. But what you're going to find there is a freaking amazing community of people, right? Like you talked about Amy Timmeyer, which, by the way, she spoke at the 6-figure weekend event because she runs a bunch of nonprofit events, right? And you saw her come out and just like spew this like amazing information, and we were just like, right? Because it was just so like, wow, look, like you were amazing. Why don't you do this more, right? She's like, no. Okay. Like, so,
and by the way, she wants to do more. I think she's uncomfortable to do more. And I mean, when she's in her lane, she's amazing. Right. And we're all amazing in our lane. You have to find that lane. And I'm sorry for interrupting. Right. Go ahead.
Oh, don't be. Her area, like what she does in her area of genius, mind blowing. Right. Like, and I'm a number guy, like I'm good with numbers. And she was doing something about numbers for an event. And I was just like, right. And they're like, the guy that's leading the event is over there taking notes. I'm like, hell yes. Like, this is good. Yeah. Right. Like this is stuff you should be writing too. We should all be writing. Right. And I'm taking pictures of it so I can have it later because I forget things like crazy. So I'm like, take pictures and make reminders. Right. But she killed it. But our community is it's so many people in different areas, but they're so supportive. Right. Like I would say we created the space to have the family we always wanted, not necessarily the family we had.
Gotcha.
Right? And so I say then when you become part of the community, you really forget about me and you talk to the community because people are like, Mike, you're cool, but get out of the way. I'm like, damn it. All right. I had my moment in the sun. No, but so that's our events. We go through experience, activities, and teachings. You're probably going to experience something for the first time if you ever come to one of our events. It's okay. That's the point of it. We want you out of your comfort zone at times. We're going to do activities, different things. We're going to do different ways to get you to open up to others, to accept people in the room, right? To start that, to get some walls down so we have real communication, right? So we can have real transformation. And then I'm going to put some people you probably never heard of in front of you that you're going to see their area of genius and be like, I need to talk to this person more.
And I always tell people, you want to go to places that you're the dumbest person in the room. Right. Yeah. I mean, that's how you grow, right? You have to go there. So go to these events, get to know these people. But one thing I noticed about you is you put a thing out and you were talking about, you wrote 3 books and you sold your first one for this, you sold for the second one for this, and now you sell your third one for this. And basically you kind of want to give that story because I think what it is your third book you give when you go to the events, right?
Right. So,
because hold on, one more thing before I forget, because a lot of people want to write a book. They don't know why they want to write a book, but they want to write a book. And it's important to write the book for the right reason. There's ones to get, authority and people in your space and another one to get, group. You need to know why you're doing it. So can you kind of tell your story on that?
100%. Great question. I'm glad I've been geeking out we adjusted some of the things about the book in the last 48 hours. So I've been geeking out about this for the last 48 hours. So, and you didn't even know that. So it's a great question. So I'm hyped. Right. So first book I wrote on a dare. So that's not a good reason to write a book, just so you know. And the first line, there's a misprint. We sent to like 4 different editors. There's a million errors in it, right? So I'm like, we did not pick the right editors, right? Clearly. And the first line, it says, hey. And I was like, did they think I wrote hey on purpose, right? Like that would be me. Like that's kind of language I use. Hey, right? Like I don't talk like that. Right. So my daughter pointed it out. Thank you. Right. My daughter read it and was like, Dad, do you mean to write hey, hey on the first line? I'm like, no. All right. And then my daughter went through, my daughter's like, unfortunately brilliant, right? Like annoying, brilliant, right? I'm like, shut up. Like on Harvard's wait list to go. I'm like, leave me alone. I went to like community college, right? So, and I spent like 18 years and did not get a 4-year degree, just so we know. Right? So well done, Michael. But she like edited the book without me asking her to after it was done and like gave it to me and was like, you should give them this so they fix it. I was like, you're gonna have a bad Christmas this year, kid. And so
no, but there are people, you could just say this, you did that for a reason to see if people read it.
Right.
It
was right. Yeah, I like that. I'm going to use that just,
because I mean, people, I have put mistakes in places so I know people read them. Hey, you made a mistake over here. Okay, at least I know you read the content. So
I'm going to steal that like crazy. Thank you. All right. I'm gonna call it the Ed line. I'm gonna give you credit. So I write this book and I launch it like a regular book. It's like either $9.97 to $19.97, depending on the time you bought it. And really to be able to be like, I took the dare, I put my story out there. It's called Your Story. You have every reason to quit, but don't. And really it's just, I tell a story of it's me growing up and I tell a story, what kind of lesson I got from that story. And then there's blank pages with lines. And what you do is you write in like a story from your life where you got this, right? Like, where do you learn this lesson? Right. And at the end of the book, you take out all those sections, you put them together and you have your story. All right. Because we can gain confidence from our own stories, right? Like, you survived everything you've been through, the way you've been through it. You survived that. Not only did you survive it, you came out and have like everyday radio shows, 4 different podcasts, 18 different businesses, right? The 6 steps to sales, right? Like, I'm like, it's not like you don't do anything, right? Like, I'm like, at least on the surface, you're very active, right? Like, it's you survived everything you went through and still did all this, right? Like, that's freaking amazing, right? Like, you don't need my story. You got yours. You just got to see it, right? So that's a lot of time when I'm like, what holds you back typically is yourself, right? What makes you go forward is typically yourself.
Right.
Right. And all I want to do is bring light to that. Right. Like, it's not going to be me. You're not going to give me a whole bunch of credit at the end of this. I don't care. Right. Like, if I did it for that, I'd be doing a different job. Right. Where you win awards or whatever. Right. Like, I would go and hold a trophy on stage and be able to give a speech about, all the things that made me stand there and be great. Right. I would do something like that. But I don't want to, because the way we accomplish what we're accomplishing is you need to know you're great. Right. Like, in your area, in your lane, you're not great at everything. Neither am I. Right. But on our lane, we're great. So that was the point of the first book. The second book I used as a lead gen source. Right. And what I wanted to do was lead generation. I wanted to gain leads from it for our business. Right. So get our stuff out there. That one I did not charge for the book. I just charged shipping. Right. And a good old classic story of me messing it up. Right. I'm like, I always want to overdo things. It's just my way. Right. You come to our event, you have a driving service. They'll pick you up at the airport. They'll give you a warm towelette, right? A hand sanitizer and a bottle of water in the ride. They drive you to the hotel. When you get to the hotel, there's something waiting for you when you check in. They hand it to you. You go to the room, there's stuff waiting for you in the room, a handwritten letter or two with it, right? Like, I try to overdo things. Sometimes it really works for me. Sometimes it doesn't. This is one of those times it did not, because I did the estimated cost for media packaging, which is much lower, which would be great for the charge that we had, right? We would actually make $3 off every book at the end, right? So I'm like, dope, here we go, right? And I'm like, let's overdo it though. So I take, after everybody leaves and they have all the books in the sleeves and the notes and everything, I take it, I put our pen in it, I put our bracelet in it, right? Like, I put one of our, like, we have different mantras and like manifestos and mini manifestos, and I'm putting those stickers and cards in there, right? And I take them all to the post office. I'm like, they're going to love this. They got so much just for shipping. Well, when you do that, it is no longer media package, because it's not just a book. And the price for each one skyrockets, right? And it became more than what we charged for shipping and handling per book, right? And in some cases that were going farther away, it became double what we were charging. And I was like, maybe I shouldn't tell the team about this one, right? This wasn't my most brilliant move when it came. I was like, someone better sign up for something after they get this book, or I'm going to look like an idiot to everybody, right? So the second one was a lead gen. And what I was doing there was both those models I modeled, like both those ways of getting a book out. I just modeled them, right? They were already done. So I was like, I want to do something different.
Hold on before you go there. On that second one, did you get any lead gen out of it?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
And did you get enough to cover the cost of you paying extra?
Yeah.
Okay.
It took a year, but yes.
It's all matters. It's a building. It's a building thing. People don't realize you have to spend money to make money. And I think a lot of people are worried about, and I tell people, don't step over $1 to pick up a dime, because you have to spend money to make money. So,
and I love what you said. Dan Kennedy said it the best. I think the amateur's worried about the first sale. I'm not worried about the first sale, right? Like, I'll break even on the first sale. Hell, I'll lose on the first sale. As long as I walk you through the process and the ascension process to move you through, because then I know on the back end, we made it, right? Like, so I just need to get you through so you start seeing what we're about, how we do it, and be like, oh, this is dope. I want to be more a part of this. And cool, we got it, right? So a lot of our events, people are like, I can't believe they're this low and you do this much. I'm like, right, because I'm not trying to make much money from the beginning of the event. It's after the event when you want to do more with us and be more part of what we're doing, that's where the charge comes in, that we're going to make some money from it, right? And that's good, because I want to add value first. I want to deliver first, right? Because we believe in what we do, like you do. You believe in what you do, so you're going to deliver, and then be like, cool. Now you saw that I delivered. Let's move. Right?
Hook,
so,
education, call to action. Hook, education,
yes,
call
sir.
to action.
Right? That's funny. We call it the break and stick method, because I'm like, I want to break your attention and stick you, right? Then we're going to tell the story, which is
anyway.
It does, yeah. I like break and stick because it sounds like a lot of my life.
Hey, whatever works for you. But it's funny because we've been through all these things, and they talk about, oh, you need to have a hook, education, or whatever, and then the call to action. It's the same thing you do for everything. All right. It's nothing new for YouTube or marketing. It's everything you do.
So, yes, sir.
Go ahead. I'll shut up.
Right. No, I love it. I love the conversation better. I hate when it's just like, blah, blah, blah.
I try to do a decent podcast. I try to do a decent podcast. So
you do amazing podcasts. I've been checking them out, trying to get mentally ready.
I don't know why people want to get mentally ready. I don't want you mentally ready. I want you to be you.
Right. If you look at me, am I ever mentally ready? No.
Yes. You just undersell yourself. So
thank you. So then I can clear it in street shoes. Right. Get that bar so low, step right over it. So for the third book, I read this book called Contagious, and I studied this. I studied some people. There's a cheesesteak place in Philadelphia. No way. All right. But in the city, right, known for cheesesteaks. Known for them. You can get them for $5. Sells a $100 cheesesteak. Has a wait list for it. Right? They have a $100 cheesesteak in a place where you can get cheesesteaks for $5, and they have a wait for it. What? Right? So I'm like, well, that's weird. Right? So that's interesting. And then there's he was a rapper and entrepreneur named Nipsey Hussle from California area. All right? Crenshaw and Slauson. And he sold a mixtape. One time he sold 1,000 copies in one night for $100 a copy. A mixtape. You can get a mixtape for $1. You can probably get it free, right? People were buying it for $100. Then the next year he did it for $1,000 for a mixtape. And I was like, what if we sold a book for over $1,000? Right? And everybody immediately like, that's dumb. No one would buy it. People don't even like your books to begin with, Mike. I'm like, well, that's rude. Right? Like, you
don't work here anymore. Goodbye.
Yeah, right. I was like, we can keep the dick out of the conversation, right? So I'm like, wow, all right. Right. I'm like, no, but I'm like, how can we make this book different? Right? Like the experience different, the book different, where at the end they're gonna say, wow, we just paid that. I would have paid more. Right. And I think we pulled it off. All right. We'll see. But I think we pulled it off. The book is the vessel. In the book, it's going to be a year worth of ever changing growth, education, connection. Right. In the book, there's a QR code. You scan it. Your ticket comes up for the event. All right. So there's different QR codes and URLs in the book that you get videos from some of the speakers, like just giving you special video education that they made just for the people that bought the book. You get the hello from me. You get the MC telling you about the event. You get a sneak peek into the celebration of life that we happen. Every event we have a celebration of living life unleashed. We have a DJ for it, live music, entertainment. There'll be some finger foods. There's a bar. Like sometimes we put in like fake poker tables, blackjack tables, have dealers. You win chips and catch them in on vacations or electronics or different things like that. Just keep it fun, keep it interactive. A lot of networking opportunities for people to connect and grow and build relationships with other people there, because that's one of our main focuses. But in the book, there's all these different ways of doing it. And so then when you're at the book, there's another page in there with another QR code. You can go there and it tells you where everybody is and where everything is. Right. So if you're like, yo, who's going where for lunch? And be like, Michael's at Jack Daniel's for lunch. Right. I said my favorite alcohol, right? Right, or Fuse or whatever other restaurants. It's in the Gaylord in Nashville, beautiful place. And then after the event, those same QR codes, we can ever change the material, right? So we made this book a year-long experience, right? And it's the Unleashed experience, and the way it's delivered is different. The book is not a normal size book, too. It's going to be awkward on your shelf because I want you to see it, right? And we're only doing 125 of them, and then they're done. You're not going to find that at Barnes and Nobles. You're not going to find it on Amazon. I'm not going to be an Amazon bestseller this time. Right. And you know what that got me? Nothing. Right. So it got me what everybody puts in their profile and says they're an Amazon bestseller of some sub category.
Right. That's what a lot of people don't realize, that what subcategory are you? You know, they're under fuel.
Dog's faith.
Yeah.
Right. I was like, under belief, dog's faith. I'm like, I don't know who wrote a book in that thing, but I'm going to be the number one in that. Right. So it wasn't for that. It was to show people way you could package something and sell it for whatever, as long as you make the value, the offer appear that they're getting a deal on it. Right. Like, that is too good to pass up. It's a no-brainer. No way to say no. Create a no way to say no offer, and give them something they haven't experienced, and you can change the game. And that's what it was about. Let's change the game.
Man, that's an amazing idea. You know, you're a type of person, and a lot of people, you can't judge a book by its cover. And you are one of those. You have to you have to open it up, read it, and understand who they are and whatever. And I think a lot of us discount people because the same thing, right? You can't judge a book by its cover. You have to know what's in there, because some of the greatest covers are the worst books, right? So,
100%.
Yeah. And
listen, no one ever tries to sell me a car. Probably because I look like this.
So that's the best way to look. You know, and that's wrong, because, you know, we've been in sales. I have forever, right? I'm sure you have too. But if you're in car sales and this farmer comes in on there to buy a Mercedes, he's got money, because he doesn't flaunt it. He doesn't this. Those are the people who have money. The people who look like they have money are the ones that don't have money. So
100%.
Because they have to spend it they're a paycheck away from broke. So
right. It's I used to be in this like speaker circuit, and we would go around and speak at different events, our own and some others. And I was always with this guy. He had a Rolex all the time, right? He had like tailored suits on all the time, right? And I don't know if you saw me, but years ago I used to wear a 3-piece suit. I had a pocket watch. I absolutely love it. Yeah, right. Like, I absolutely love my pocket watch.
Courtney would always talk about, he just needs to shave that, because then he'd look amazing in that suit. I'm like, Courtney, you're missing the whole point of who he is.
That's amazing. And so I used to wear the suits and everything, like they tell you you're supposed to, like, fit in, right? Like you have to look the part to be the part. And finally I was just like, you know what? This is gonna be me. Right. And if the best thing I have is what I wear, man, don't pay me. Right. It's like, so I look like this. I got to deliver. Right. They're not like, oh, give him a second chance. He has a nice suit on. Right. They're not like, that hoodie. That's a good hoodie. Right. I probably got a
$1,000 hoodie, I tell you.
Yeah. He's got a real fancy hoodie on. Right. That backwards hat. It's a Richardson. It's a snapback. Right. Like, so I don't think that's it. And I'm like, So it was always funny. It was me and him always speaking one after another, and vice versa. And I would always say, like, you're not going to catch me doing that. Like, that's not going to be me. And there's nothing wrong with it. Do your thing. It's just not my style. It's not me. If it is, I'm trying to portray an image I'm not. So let me be me. Let me portray myself. So then we don't have to go through the part of figuring out who I am. I'll just be me. We'll know who I am. And then if you want to get the information that we're going to talk about, cool. If you don't, cool. Life goes on for both.
Right. That's like when I was when I used to be in San Diego and did the mortgages down there. We wore shorts and Tommy Bahamas, and I moved up here to Northern California. They wore suits. So for the first so many years, I wore a suit, right? And they weren't cheap suits. They were the price of gold. We'll just leave it at that. Why I don't buy gold is gold's always the price of a good suit, so it's a waste of money to me. That's my opinion. Nice. Right. Yeah. So then 2006 happened, downturn. I'm like, I'm tired of this. I talked to most of my people on the phone anyway. And I just started wearing polos and, golf shorts because I'd go golfing all the time. I'm like you, I suck at it, but I just do it to go out and smoke the cigar and drink the drinks. But, that's basically why I would go out golfing. That's it. But then now it's like I wear, even now I'm wearing t-shirts and jeans, right? And sometimes I'm in shorts and you don't know it because they only see the upper part of me, and we have to do so much video. And the reason I changed is when you do video, you can record like 10 different things in one day. Well, I'm tired of wardrobe changes. I can just change my hat, right? Or not.
Right. Turn my hat forward. Right. No, 100% accurate. Wardrobe changes were the worst.
I had so much clothes in my office over there, and it's like because I have after when pandemic hit, they closed the radio station I used to do my radio at, and so we had to figure out how to do it from home and different things. I finally made a studio in one of my offices at the office, and then now I took out the conference room because all my people work from home and turn it into another studio because that's where we're going to be doing the real radio stuff from weekly. So nice. It's evolving, and I tell people, you have to find out who you really are in life and do what you love. I really enjoy doing mortgages because I help people build personal wealth through home ownership. And that's important to me. It's important to educate people, but there's so much more I can do. And that's where I'm at those points now. And that's why I do so many different podcasts and different things. Because there's, you've been doing sales for 20 years and I run into agents who have no idea how to sell at all. Right. That was at the Steve's event. It's like they suck at it and it's not their fault. It's just they learned on how to text. They have no soft skills. Mm-hmm. So,
nope. And if you can't sell, it's a hard road.
You can't get your idea across. You can't do anything.
Even relationships. Yeah.
Communication.
At some point. Yeah. Right. Like
it's all communication.
Right. Yeah. Right. I would say my greatest sales has been the people in my life believing that I should be in their life. It's been my greatest sale, right? We're all in sales, if we want to admit it or not. We're all in sales in multiple areas in our life.
And you have to get better at it. And it's all about communication, and it's really persuading people. And that's not a bad thing. It's not manipulation. You're just trying to help people do what they want to do in the first place, right? So
get out of their way.
Yeah,
people need to get out of their way.
The only thing you don't want to do is you've seen the movie Glenn Ross. Did you ever see that yet?
Yeah, no, because you told me. Yes.
Yeah, the first 10 minutes of that movie is all you got to watch. Right, that's it.
True story.
After that, don't worry about it. It's you don't need to know who stole the leads.
Yep. Doesn't matter.
Right. It's like leads aren't weak, you're weak, coffee's for closers and all that stuff, right? And so those are phrases we used when I first was in the mortgage business back in the early 90s, because I grew up, I worked for a guy that was Alec Baldwin. That's how,
nice.
Real great. So I've been through that. Yeah. And I understand what not to do. And that's important to understand because that's how it used to be. Those are hardcore sales. I took a while to figure out what he said. When I can go out on a sit tonight, that's kind of not what it came across, and sell 15, what's your name? My name is that, it was all about his car and his watch and all that stuff. Right. Mm-hmm. So, but the most important thing is helping people. That's what we do. And real sales is about helping people get what they want. because they're coming to you for that. And you have to get out of your way sometimes, because you can just get in the way of the sell that's already happening. And you need to know that. And people don't understand that. And I tell people, just the best thing to do is go back to the old guys, Zig Ziglar, Tom Hopkins. And I know we're totally different on this end of our podcast, but Tom Hopkins and Brian Tracy, any of those old guys are the ones that are true. Everybody to this up now have stolen from them, or have converted it to where it's a bad thing, and it's not a bad thing because they say it's manipulation, or you talk to people a different way with this personality. Well, Brian Galke, I mean, it's so true about facial stuff, how to talk to people, because people want to know how to be spoken to. And that's what you need to know. And I still do this day, because I'd much rather talk to somebody than text them, because they have no idea what I'm saying. And too many people have been upset from a text or email and took it the wrong way.
100%. Because of Galke, I shaved, I trimmed the top of my beard, my mustache, so I look more trustworthy.
I'm sorry, I couldn't tell you that you trimmed it. So
I'm going to start doing duck lips the whole show. You're 100% correct with everything you were saying. I love it. The idea of the sale is like, sometimes the salesperson gets in the way, right? Mm-hmm. It's always self. Like, what you're doing is showing the person that going this route is going to cure and solve the problem in which they haven't faced to get to the next level in which they want to get to. And depending on what they get from you, it could go through different levels, because Jeff Walker says for every solution, there's a problem. And I love that line, right? Because we always say for every problem, there's a solution. We're like 100% true, but for every solution, there's a problem, right? And I used to not take that in and digest that. And I would just try to help someone and be like, here, do this, here, try this. But all we were doing was setting them up for the next failure, right? The next hit. Right. And it's like, listen, you'll be able to get past this hurdle, but then there's another hurdle, and you'll hit that one if you don't have this process, because it's a piece of the puzzle. It's not the puzzle. Right. And I have to throw Jim Rohn's name in there for some of the greats, just because I thought Jim Rohn, I mean, other than the way he said, you made a mistake, other than that, he was amazing. Right. He was great. And that's why when people are like, Tony Robbins is the best I ever did, I'm like, Tony Robbins is a duplicate of Jim Rohn. Stop it.
Right. And Brian Tracy stole everything from Zig Ziglar. We could go on and on. I mean, to a point to where some of his statements are exactly the same. I'm like, plagiarism, but
you can change a word.
Right. I mean, this example he shows, it's like, that's the same example that I just listened to in the last time I was listening to something. But anyway, but yeah, the big thing is you need to sell the problem you solve, not the solution. Right.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And too many people are trying to sell the solution instead of what the problem they solve. And a prime example, and you got to be careful in sales what you say. I was talking to another guy on a podcast this week, and he was saying how he went and he was going in to buy a mattress, right? And it doesn't matter if you're selling luxury homes or mattresses. It's pretty much the same sell. It's just how you come across. And the guy was like, what kind of mattress do you have? And he goes, Cal King. He goes, oh, really? Those are usually for tall people. And he's like, is he calling me short now? Right. And so he's like, I was so irritated. We walked out. And he goes, I was ready to spend 10 grand for a mattress. And this guy has to say, really? You have a Calkeen? Those are usually for taller people.
Why would you say that?
That's what knowing how to sell. And this guy was older. He just probably just didn't care. He's on a fixed income. He's just like, I don't care if I'm here. I get an hourly wage.
But no, I love what you said. It's no one cares what the product is. Right? Like, people are like, you have to have a clever name for your product. I'm like, sure. People care that product is the thing that solves the problem in which they feel the pain of. Right. Right. And if you do that, you win.
Right. Yeah. Cause it's the problem you solve. And then, oh, by the way, how do you solve it? Oh, here's why we solve it, and that's exactly. A lot of people focus on other things, and we could have a whole another hour of podcast, even though, it
does drive me crazy though. When you're like, what do you do? And people are like, I'm an accountant. I'm like, way to end the conversation, right? Like, that's like, how many people are going to be like, oh, that's glorious. Let's talk numbers, right? Yeah, right. Like, no. But if I said, what do you do? And he said, I maximize businesses' cash flow and profit and save them where they're draining their funds.
Right.
All right. I'm interested. How do you do that? Right. It's because you talked to me about my problem. Right. You didn't talk to me about your title. I don't give a damn about your title. Unless that title, what you do through that title helps me. Then I'm like, shit, let's talk. Right? How much money do you want?
Well, and that's what's important to know your elevator speech and understand all that stuff. And the one thing that Steve does at his events, get people to come out of their shell and understand what they do.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends on, for me, when somebody asks me, what do I do, whether or not I want to talk to them or not. Because if I don't want to talk to them, I say I'm in the mortgage business, right? if I want to talk to them, I say I build personal wealth through home ownership,
Then it's like, how do I do that?
Yeah.
Right.
How do you do that? How do you, because and I always say most people they don't have a 401k, 403b or IRA. But they can buy a home and build personal wealth that way and work on stuff the other way. But anything else you want to put in here before we go?
Oh,
I know you've been coughing. You all right there?
Yeah. You make me laugh. When I laugh, it's over. Man, I'm honored to be here. I love how you do what you do. This was awesome. This was an absolute pleasure. Anyone that wants to get a hold of me, Michael Fabber, or the coach Mike Fabber on Facebook, Instagram, etc., and Unleash You Now. You can find us on everything. My phone number and my email are public because I always tell you, no one's alone. I'm a call or message away. I mean it. And we're better together, right? It's up to us.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to do it. So thank you so much for letting me be here and share a little bit of my story and kick it with you, because you're right. We haven't got to kick it like this. And I love what you're about and what you do. So thank you.
I appreciate that. I really do. And I want to thank everybody for joining us here on Inner Edison. If you like today's episode, just let us know, share, tell people about it, leave a little review, and check out Michael, or Mike. Mikey likes it,
Never heard that.
Yeah, I'm sure you never heard any of that stuff. Anyway, I appreciate you being here, Mike. Yeah. Appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for being on the show.
All
right.
Thank you.
And thank you everybody for watching.